Hello, 5th graders. It's Mr. Carroll here. So we're going to be looking at the U.S. Constitution through a series of videos. We're going to divide it up into a couple of different parts because it's a pretty long document if we're to do it all in one go. All right. But by the end of this series of videos, we will have read the entire Constitution and understand what this important document for the United States says. And it's really important to read it because it sets up the government for the entire United States. So let's get into part 1, which is going to cover the Preamble and Article 1. So the Preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. All right, this is a pretty important part. It is like the introductory paragraph of your essay that you write in school. It sets up why this document is being written, the goals of the government, and how the government is going to look. All right. We, the people, means it's that the government gets its power from the people. And the most important thing you're going to have to do when you turn 18 is to register to vote and to vote in every election we have. Because the government only comes from you, the people of the United States. In order to form a more perfect union, remember, they had just written the Articles of Confederation, and it kind of failed, right? It didn't make the government easy, and it caused a lot of problems. And so this is attempt number 2. We're going to try again. Establish justice means that there is law of the land, and it is the important thing to always follow, okay? You can't work around it. Ensure domestic tranquility. Remember, they had just dealt with things like Shays' Rebellion, and so they want to protect people from internal conflict and avoid instability that might happen. Provide for the common defense. That's what the whole American Revolution was. They were trying to defend their rights and their laws, and so that's what they will continue to do, is to protect citizens from external attacks. Promote the general welfare. So this statement is trying to allow for every citizen to benefit from what the government could provide. All right, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. It basically means that freedom is going to be protected for us now and for those who come after us, our posterity. Of course, when this was written, it was for the white men who were in the United States, but of course we've been striving to do better and better ever since to include more and more people in those freedoms. All right. And then it just, at the end, it says, we establish this Constitution. We are creating this document. So that's the preamble, and it's a pretty important part. And it's one that that's where most people stop, is they kind of read this and they're like, all right, we got it. But there's a lot of other good details in here. So let's dive into Article 1. It's the longest in the document. There are 10 subsections. That means it's the most important one, okay? So even though we know the president, and even though we have all these other things, like Article 1 is the most important for the document. That's what our founding fathers took the longest to put together. Here's the summary of all 10 sections. Section 1, there's 2 parts to Congress. Section 2, there's the House of Representatives and how we select them and who can serve in there. Section 3, it's the Senate, how they are selected and who can serve. Section 4 is when to vote. Section 5 is they get to make rules for their own meetings. Section 6 covers paychecks, protection from certain laws, and that they can't serve in 2 offices. They have to put all of their efforts into Congress when they are serving there. Section 7 is any bill dealing with money has to start in the House of Representatives, and every bill that passes goes to the president. It's one of those checks and balances we've talked about. Section 8, Congress makes the rules. Section 9, states are equal and you can move between them. There can't be any borders or shutdowns between different states. And then Section 10, states are subordinate to Congress for everything that's in Section 8. So if it's something that's mentioned in Section 8, which we're going to see in a few minutes, states can't do the same thing, all right? So let's take a look. Section 1 of Article 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. There it is. Congress makes the rules, and we have to follow them. It's not the president. It's not the Supreme Court. It's Congress. And so that's why they're probably some of the more important people that we need to be paying attention to. Section 2, the House of Representatives part. So the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years, have been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Of course, now it should be he or she, but at that time, only men could serve. But it's basically saying you get voted in every 2 years, that you have to be 25 years old, and you have to have been a U.S. citizen for 7 years. But it does mean you can be an immigrant and then become a member of the House of Representatives. And we have several people who have gotten their citizenship and then come into the House. And that's really important to hear their voices too. And that when they elected, they have to live in the state that they are being chosen from. The rest of this section is going on to more about the votes. Talks about how many people can be elected and how you choose that. And the part in blue has been redacted, okay, because it talks about excluding Indians and slaves and that type of stuff, and we don't have that anymore. So representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers. Means we're going to give the states a fair number of representatives based on how many people are in there, and that's why the census is an important thing. And this which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, and 3/5 of other persons. That means 3/5 of other slaves. So if you're a slave, you didn't count as a full person, just as a part of one. And you didn't count as a person at all if you were an Indian. And so that's why this has been redacted, and it is in blue. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and with every subsequent term of 10 years. So in the year 2020, we are in a census year. So that means we have to count everyone in the state. Children, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everyone. All right. In such a matter as they shall by law direct. And so it just means that Congress will set up how we do the counting. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative until such enumeration shall be made. So that means for every 30,000 people, you get 1 representative. And then it goes, this next part goes into the numbers of how many. And then we jump down to the next paragraph. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority therein, so the governor, shall issue a writ of election to fill such vacancy. So they'll make a special election to fill the vacancy. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other offices and shall have the sole power of impeachment. All right. So only the House of Representatives can can impeach, and they get to choose who is in charge of it. And they have this weird spelling of choose, so just be aware of that. I've copied this directly from the U.S. Constitution, so that's what they spelled it in the 1780s, 1790s. Section 3, the Senate. All right. So the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislator thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The blue has been taken out. It's not chosen by the legislator. It's chosen by us, the people, now. We still have 2 senators, and it's every 6 years we vote for them. Immediately after they shall be assembled in the consequences of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year, the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. This paragraph basically says we're going to elect everyone, so all the senators, so there's 13 states right now, and so we're going to elect 26 senators, and then they're just going to randomly choose. They're divided into thirds so that not everyone gets kicked out every 6 years, and so that we have some institutional knowledge. So they're trying to stagger who gets voted out when. All right. This doesn't happen anymore because we've had the U.S. Constitution for a number of years now. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 and been 9 years a citizen of the U.S. So you have to be 30 years old and at least a citizen for 9 years, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be the President of the sentence, but shall have no vote unless they are equally divided. So the Vice President casts the tie-break-in vote. The Senate shall choose their other officers, and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president, and when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. So they get to choose who's in charge of their meetings. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. So the House impeaches, and the Senate is the one that kind of determines whether or not to remove a president. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. And when the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice, meaning of the Supreme Court, shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. All right, so we need to have 2/3 of the Senate to agree to remove the president from office because of impeachment. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to the removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. So all they're saying is the only thing the Senate can do is remove a president from office if they find it is important, okay? And the Senate has yet to find that majority in all that they are doing, all right? In all the impeachments that we've had, everyone has been impeached by the House, but nobody has been removed by the Senate. And they're just saying that all they can do is just remove them from office, and they have to get charged for criminal stuff later on by another state. Section 4. The time, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and the meeting shall be on the first Monday in December unless they shall by law appoint a different day. So it just means every year you have to meet at least once, and it obviously is no longer the first Monday in December because that's in blue. It's been redacted and changed, and states get to choose how they elect, but the Congress can at any time make a law to alter the regulations, and that's why it's the first Tuesday in November that we now use as our election day. Section 5. All right, so this is the rules about their own business stuff. So each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of proceedings, punishments for its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrences of 2/3 expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings and from time to time publish the same, excepting such parts as in their judgment require secrecy, and the yeas and the nays of the member of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. So it's just setting up all the rules about the meetings, okay? How to get rid of a Congress member if there's a reason for it, disorderly behavior, all right? How to get people to go to the meetings, when they can be there, when they can't. Now, at this time, remember, it takes a long time to get to DC, and so it's really important to know that people aren't going to travel far away. Now we have planes, and that kind of accelerates how we get travel to and from places, but it's still important to have both houses in session at the same time. All right, Section 6. We're over halfway there. This is the one about paychecks. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. So it's saying the Treasury of the United States, we will pay them. They shall in all cases, except for treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and then going to and returning from the same place, and for any speech or debate in either house they shall not be questioned in any other place. So it basically means they're allowed to say what they need to in there without fear of getting arrested, unless it's treason, a felony, or a breach of the peace. So felony are really serious crimes. A breach of the peace is kind of going against like disorderly conduct type of stuff. No senator or representative shall, during the time from which he is elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. So it's basically saying if they're going to work for the president, they can't also be in the House of Representatives or the Senate. They have to choose one or the other. And that's why a bunch of senators, when they get called up to be ambassadors or to be cabinet members or to be helpful of the president, they give up their Senate seat or their House seat, and they have to have special elections. And so that's why you'll see a lot of special elections throughout the year, and it's important that you vote in them. All right, this is again to be a long one, but it's the money one. Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So the House of Representatives makes all the money bills, but the Senate can add their 2 cents as well. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approves, he shall sign it. If not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. So they basically says the president can choose to sign it or not, but it has to go to his desk, and then they have to reconsider it. If after such reconsiderations 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become law. But in all such cases, the votes of both Houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the person voting for and against the bill shall be entered into the journal of each House respectively. Journal just means their logs, their roll call, their records. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevented its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Basically saying the president can't just sit on a bill; he or she has to sign it in order to get it moving. You're not allowed to just kind of take your time and hope that the Congress forgets that you haven't signed the bill. You got to return it. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him or her, or being disapproved by them, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and the House of Representatives according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. So it's basically saying this is the check and balance, right? Congress makes the bill, and the president will have to sign it. All right, this is one of the most important things, even though it's a bit dry. Section 8. These are the rules. These are the rules that Congress makes. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, which is more taxes, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. They have the power. Now you have to understand that we're saying that they have the power to do all these things: to borrow money on credit in the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states and with the Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Rules of naturalization is just immigration rules. How do you become a citizen is really important at this time, because everyone is migrating to the United States. To coin money, to regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and to fix a standard of weights and measures. Basically, Congress gets to decide that the foot is going to be the foot throughout all of the states, and you can't have Massachusetts saying, well, we're going to measure everything in boxes, and New York saying, well, we're going to measure everything in brushes, right? Congress says, we're going to fix all this weights and measures. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coins in the United States. So if you make fake money and try to pass it off as real, they have the power to punish you. to establish post offices and post roads. Okay, so Congress created the post office. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for a limited time to authors and inventors the exclusive rights to their respective writings and discoveries. Congress has the ability to support science and give money to people to get them to create stuff, but they have exclusive rights to it in their discoveries. Okay, and it's something that is kind of getting lost in a lot of our stuff nowadays. Congress should be supporting arts and sciences, but they also get the chance to benefit from it. All right. To constitute tribunal inferior to that of the Supreme Court, so they get the ability to make courts that are not just the Supreme Court. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the laws of nations. At this time, there's a lot of pirates, and so they found it important to say they get to define what is a pirate and to punish them. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning capture on land and water. They are the ones that get to declare when we attack someone. It's not the president, it's the Congress. It's to make sure that nobody gets hot-headed and angry and kind of flies off the cuff and attacks someone. Congress works together to declare war. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So they only get 2 years to raise an army and just have them standing. That's why you have to always rejoin the army after 2 years. To provide and maintain a navy. To make rules for the government and regulation of the lands and of naval forces. To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. So remember, in the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment is to the right to bear arms and to form well-established militias, but you can't just use those militias willy-nilly. Congress still has the ability to call you forth and to use them to suppress rebellions and insurrections and repel invasions. So it's not, both have to work together. And some people kind of forget that Amendment 2 works with Section 8 of the Constitution. To provide for organizing army and discipline in the militia and for governing such part of them that as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So we have the ability to make the army and supply it. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles, as may be by cessation of particular states and acceptances of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the constance of legislator of the state in which the same shall be named for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. All right, and so that's basically saying they have the power to control Washington, D.C., and all the military bases. They're the ones in charge. And to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by the Constitution of the Government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So they're basically covering themselves. If we forgot that there's a law we need to make later, we have the ability to make it. Section 9. All right. The migration or importation of such persons as any state now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808 by a tax, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importations not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless in the cases of rebellion or invasion of the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No position or direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on article exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over another, nor shall vessels be bound to or from one state be obliged to enter pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in the consequence of appropriations made by law and a regular statement in account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time, and no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding an office of profit or trust under them shall, without consent of Congress, accept any present eminent office or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. So it's basically saying You can't tax people moving from other states. Yeah, everyone is allowed to move between them. All states are considered equal, and nobody gets to be princes, barons, or dukes in the United States. Nobody gets these titles of nobility, and you can't accept anything from others, kings, princes, or foreign states to potentially be corrupted by them. All right? And then finally, the part where states are subordinate. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marques or reprisals, coin money, or emit bills of credit, make in anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder ex post facto law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grants any title of nobility. No state shall be without the consent of Congress lay any imposts or duties or on imports and exports except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state or import or export shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and any such laws shall be subject to the revisions and control of the Congress. No state shall, without consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in any time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Congress sets war. States don't get to set war. And that's what this section says. Congress sets money. States don't get to set money. All right? So there you have it. That is the preamble and Article 1 of the Constitution. Probably the longest section we're going to have in all of our videos. All right? So come back for part 2, and I hope you guys understand a little bit more about what the legislative branch does in the United States.